Alright, this is going to be my review of the Lifetime Tamarack 100 Set on Top Angling Kayak. I've seen some other reviews online, and in none of them did anyone actually get in the water or even talk about the index storage. There's some things when I was researching buying this low price point kayak just to get out on the water that I couldn't find out through any of the review videos. So I'm going to talk about them in my video and get out and real world test it and talk about the stability and fishing out of it and the seat and all that good stuff. The things you need to know about it before we even start: comes in around a $300 price point, which used to be that was a cheap kayak. That's not so much anymore. There's a lot of competition out there. The prices have come down. This is a pretty solid kayak so far, what I can tell. It's one reason I went ahead and went with it, and today we're going to put it to the test a little bit. But it's $300 price point. Right now during COVID-19, you'll get gouged to like $420, $450 for these, but it's a $300 kayak. Things to know about it right up front: it's got 2 index storages, and in the index storage there is not any divider walls, so if you don't have something in there secured, it's going to slide around. It could if you got into, like, I will take this in whitewater personally. Like, I've done it for years and years and years and years. It's not that big a deal. But any kind of movement, it's going to move around. You have to have a way to secure it in there. And, you know, it lacks the bag. It lacks the, lacks any kind of dividing walls. And that's the front storage that's right between your knees. And then there's also one back here on the deck storage. There's another index storage, and it's the same story. There's not a divider in there. It's about for my hand for reference, if you can see that. Can you pull in there? That's about how big the circumference is going to be. So if you use your hand, that's about what you can fit in and get out of there. But again, there's no walls. There's no bag to divide it from anything else. It could get lost in there. You'd have to find a way to anchor it. And it is set on top. Things I noticed about it is it seems to have a really high profile when you sit in it. You don't really sit down in it at all. And I'm going to see how that plays out with stability when I'm casting. I'm going to rock it a little bit and see what we can get into and see how stable it is. But we're going to try to take a look at all that. So again, it's the Lifetime Tamarack 100, a 10-foot kayak. It comes in at about 35 pounds. Not super heavy. I was able to manage it on my own onto the top of my SUV and back off. But it seems to be really solid. It's got a wide, flat bottom, so I'm thinking it is going to be stable, but that's what we're about to check out. Alright, so we're going to try like stability just by casting and see how it runs. Like, I didn't even move at all in that. The wind's pushing me right now into the bank, but it's really stable. If you look, I can rock pretty hard with no real concerns about going over. Give me 1 second, just hang tight there. Let me stay out of this crap up here. I'm gonna throw one out, like way out, where I gotta lean into it. And yeah, like it's very stable. It's not even really it's not even touchy. Like sometimes you're in a kayak and you can feel that roll in it. Like this is very, very stable to cast out of. Now the seat, not so bad right now, but I can tell you it would be very uncomfortable over a course of time. Alright, so now we're going to do a little tracking test. I'm going to take off and just paddle that way, and you'll be able from behind to get an idea of how, when you dig in with the paddle, how the boat tracks as you're moving forward. And you'll also be able to get an idea of how much the stability, how it rocks. So I'm thinking it might be a good way to see that. So we'll do that real quick. I'll come on back to you as well. Honestly, I'm not sure how it looked, but it feels great. It tracks pretty well. It's a little bit loose in the front end in car terms, but it tracks pretty well. It's very stable. And honestly, it's a nice ride. Like, I would compare it to like a long wheelbase on a vehicle. Short wheelbases are rougher rides, but way sexier. These kind of like, but the long wheelbases always are super, super comfortable rides. And that's kind of what I compare this to. It's a very smooth ride. It's a very stable and smooth ride. So that hopefully will give you an idea of how it tracks and how stable it is while you're paddling. So it's definitely stable. The seat could use an upgrade, no doubt. The index storage, I like that. Like, I didn't install the rod holder. Like, it's got these rod holders, like any kayak does anymore, for fishing anyway, angling. But I didn't install the rod holder, but it's the same deal like you always see. It's pretty standard. The index storage, this one I like a lot. It's right here. It's easy to access. I do not like that there's no dividing walls, but if you can find a way, like I can fit my tackle box in there, I can fit my pliers in there. Now I'm going to customize this a little bit. Like, I'll get a PVC tube and create a rod holder that I can actually break down my rod and tuck in here for when I go through rapids. I like to fish rivers that have rapids because the smallmouth are always freaking amazing at the holes at the end of chutes or rapids. So like something like that, you can break it down, tuck it into the PVC pipe, a smaller one where just the reel's exposed, and protect your rod if you get into trees or whatever. The rod holders are pretty standard. I like this, but I'm gonna have to find a way in the index storage to either partition it off, which is a very big possibility. I could do that, or I could take like maybe a rope, some way to anchor something from just inside so that I could have my tackle box where it won't move, where whatever I put in there won't move around. But that's something to consider. Is the index storage is handy. It's right here, but whatever is in there could get away where you can't reach it anymore. So you'll have to consider how to anchor whatever you want to keep in there within reach. So you got to see the tracking. You got to see the stability. You got to see my profile in it in the water, how it sits, how it rides. You got to see all that. So last thing I want to talk about as we go over this review is the deck storage and the weight capacity. That's a big deal to me because I do a lot of like yak packing, as I affectionately call it, overnight float trips, and you got to carry a thing on you. It's kind of like long distance hiking. Weight's a huge consideration. This thing comes in at 10 feet, which is a half foot longer than my first kayak, and it's 2 feet shorter than my second kayak. And both of those, the thing I loved about the short kayak is the stability, the handling. You can turn it on a dime. It's like it's squirrel darting around in the water. You can really handle rapids in a shorter kayak. The longer one is smoother, more stable. Okay, so I wanted like something in between the two, and this actually kind of fits that bill. It's a little bit closer to the 9.5 foot, but as far as the deck storage goes and the weight capacity, it's extremely different. This has got 50 more pounds of weight capacity at 275 pounds, and it's got a lot more deck storage. You can easily fit, for some people it would be, say, a big old cooler. All you got to do is do a couple of modifications, add a couple of eye hooks, use your bungee straps, set it right there. I'm going to put a backpack there. You know, I'm going to have my single man tent or my hammock or whatever else in a backpack right here. The front's got room for, like, what I use for a cooler on the river is an ice mule because it's soft-sided and it rides so much better in a kayak. I mean, it would set perfect right here to keep my water or drinks or whatever I want in there. So the weight capacity, in my opinion, is phenomenal for a 10-foot kayak. The stability's phenomenal. For something coming in at $300. Like, that's freaking killer. In my opinion, complete overview, for me at least, this has got everything I want out of a kayak. It seems to be really well built. It's pretty solid. It's pretty thick of anything like that in its price range, you know, a low-end kayak. But at $300, man, I don't think you can go wrong with this. So anyway, that's my review of the Tamarack 100 Lifetime made kayak. And honestly, you know, I haven't had a chance to have it for many years where I can see if it's going to leak or not. I don't know about the durability over time. But as far as performance and comfort, I mean, it's up there. The only thing is, like I said earlier, you're probably going to want to upgrade the seat. But other than that, I'm about it.
We here at Studio 119 would like to remind all of you out there listening, wherever you might be, that though the hill might be steep and the trail be rocky, the mountaintop awaits.